I did want to spend maybe like 1 to 2 minutes talking about Riot before I move on to the next story, right? So a lot of people think that I'm a hater against Riot shares and blah blah blah, but like, look, I'm not a hater, right? I think that this Bitcoin mining industry in general is going to succeed massively, and as long as the company doesn't go bankrupt or anything, like you're probably going to make money, no matter what miner you're in. It's just a matter of like how much money you make in terms of the difference between like each miner, right? But I think you'll probably do well in the end if Riot like doesn't go bankrupt or anything, or if any like black swan events like happens or anything like that. But in terms of like just trying to pick the best Bitcoin miner, I just want to share like picture of like a chart of why I think that Riot is kind of maybe on the closer to the bottom of the list in terms of my preferred Bitcoin miners, and certainly it's below the operational efficiency and stuff like that of Bitfarms, in my opinion, right? So this is chart that I included. It's actually not between Riot and Bitfarms, but between Riot and CleanSpark. So full disclosure, I also own shares in CleanSpark, and I at the moment do not own shares in Riot. And I think if you look at this chart, you'll see why, right? So Riot and CleanSpark both also put out their May 2024 operational update. And Riot in May mined 215 Bitcoin, while CleanSpark mined 417. So you can see that CleanSpark mined just about double, just a little bit less than double of what Riot mined. But if you look at their hash rate, so Riot has 14.7 exahash plugged in and operational, and CleanSpark has just shy of 18 exahash plugged in and operational. So you can see that CleanSpark produced almost double the amount of Bitcoin that Riot produced, with only maybe like what 25-30% more exahash, more hashing power. So this metric alone just goes to show you the operational efficiency of CleanSpark. Now, granted, CleanSpark is ranked as one of the most efficient, the most operationally sound Bitcoin mining companies out there. So yeah, like maybe some people say it's unfair because you're picking the best out of the bunch, but like, hey, if you're gonna compete in this space, then if you're gonna call yourself a good Bitcoin miner, then you gotta be able to like match up with everyone, right? But if you look at CleanSpark versus Riot, yeah, Riot has more Bitcoin HODL, but CleanSpark has a significant amount of HODL as well, right? And given this trend, CleanSpark's HODL has been going up consistently, right? And Riot has all these like expansion plans too, but then we have to wonder whether they're going to increase their HODL, or they're going to be able to increase their HODL because they're less operationally efficient compared to CleanSpark just to begin with, right? So if I look at this chart between Riot and CleanSpark, I can see like a big difference between the operational efficiency. So to me, it's like, why would I buy Riot over CleanSpark, right? I would pick CleanSpark 100% of the time, just by these two metrics alone, right? I don't know if you guys would agree with me on that, but that's just kind of my opinion. And maybe like I'll toss the question to you first, Tristan. Maybe you can speak to why we don't like Riot, or why we like Clean Spark and Bitfarms more than Riot. Let's just say, right?
Yes, I think with Riot, there's a few major issues, and one of them is just that they are horrifically inefficient compared to other miners. So all you like, if we look at the CleanSpark versus Riot comparison, CleanSpark does not have double the exahash of Riot, but they are getting double the Bitcoin production. So that speaks to Riot's inability to actually utilize their whole hash rate efficiently, and that clearly they're not producing as much as they should be. And Riot's also had kind of that issue with regards to having machines up, so they haven't been able to keep their machines up. They're also very centralized in Texas, and the issue with that is that is an area in which has been having some more environmental issues, I would say, such as like heat waves and cold spells that are atypical for the region, that have been causing additional issues with their Bitcoin mining, etc., and just the state in general. And it seems to me that the state is also getting a little bit less pro Bitcoin mining as well. And so Riot just seems to have a lot of upcoming problems, and their leadership is not really as Bitcoin like. There's not as technical, I would say. It's more so business guys. And as a rule of thumb, when it comes to an industry that's pretty technical, having leadership that is not as technical can be a detriment. And so I think that Riot is kind of acting more as a well, I feel like, for example, like with the Bitfarms deal, like they're basically acting more as like a poker player, aka not necessarily because the CEO from Riot, is a professional poker player, but it kind of feels like it's a poker move what they're doing with Bitfarms to try and squeeze value from it instead of actually fixing their mess at home. So when it comes right down to it, it's like I don't see a scenario where I would ever want to buy Riot over, for example, CleanSpark, because Riot is far more expensive for their ability to produce. Like if we just look at the amount of Bitcoin produced in May, they had 215. Bitfarms did 150. Like Bitfarms is valued at under $1 billion USD. Riot is valued at 3 billion. And we're going, why would I want to pay 3 times as much money for something that can only produce 30% more Bitcoin than Bitfarms, right? Whereas CleanSpark is much more closer in price. And at the very least, they're doing double. So it's just like, why would I want to invest in Riot at this point when they can't seem to figure out how to get their own place under control? And I understand they have a large Bitcoin hodl, but again, I don't think that is necessarily the real reason to buy the Bitcoin miners. It's more like a nice to have, I would say, right? So if they have it, they're probably not going to go bankrupt anytime soon. Okay, nice to have, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to solve their problems, and become and keep their role as one of the larger Bitcoin miners. And I think that like the comparison with CleanSpark is a pretty good kind of perspective into one of the smaller Bitcoin miners, CleanSpark, how it's just able to go blazing past one of the larger Bitcoin miners, which is Riot. So I think that I think that there's basically no good reason for anyone to invest in Riot over the other Bitcoin miners, over other Bitcoin miner opportunities, particularly since this industry is one where there's a lot of similarity between the companies themselves, right? I think that's kind of what I'm thinking of with Riot.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the part where you brought up the hodl, right? So I've seen different, interviews with different CEOs of different Bitcoin mining companies on their approach to Bitcoin hodl, and I saw an interview with the Iron CEO, and maybe we can talk about that later because we don't have time today. But just to kind of one takeaway that I saw from that interview was the Iron CEO. What he said really made me think. So he said basically, so Iron, if you guys don't know, is another Bitcoin miner, and they don't hodl any Bitcoin at all. They always sell 100% of what they mine, and people have criticized them for that. And people have, in fact, criticized Bitfarms as well for not hodling enough, even though Bitfarms does have a little bit of Bitcoin, but not nearly as much as, say, like a Riot or a CleanSpark, right? But the way that the Iron CEO put it was, look, like if you wanted to buy a company that holds a lot of Bitcoin, go buy MicroStrategy, right? Or go buy the ETFs, because there are Bitcoin spot ETFs now. So if you're buying a Bitcoin miner, you want them to grow, right? So the strategy that Iron has adopted is to sell all the Bitcoin that they mine immediately, and then immediately use that capital to grow their hash rate, right? So if you're hodling the Bitcoin, then that doesn't mean, like, that means that you're not using all the capital that's available to you to grow, right? So it's like a give and take. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. So you have to decide which strategy is the best. And I think what Bitfarms did was they decided to try and take like a middle of the road approach, where they're investing heavily into growth, yes, but they're also hodling a little bit. But we've seen other companies like, I don't know, HUD 8 might be like a extreme example on the other end, where they hodl a ton of Bitcoin. They have around 9,000 Bitcoin as well. And they just hodl a bunch of Bitcoin, but they're not like really using that money to grow. And they haven't announced expansion plans. So, like, on one end we got HUD, and on the other end we got Iron, and then maybe, like, companies like Bitfarms is closer to the Iron side, and then we have companies like Riot maybe is like closer to the HUD side, right? So, there's different approaches to how you want to do this, and yeah, I just think that Iron may be like another success story in the making. The stock has gone up a lot recently. In fact, it's over, like, it went up like, I don't know, 12-13%, something like that today, right? So yeah, maybe we can talk about that in another at another time. But yeah, Dom, do you have anything you wanted to add to this story? I know you haven't spoken in a while.
No, no worries. As you guys may know, I'm not like too informed in like the Bitcoin mining atmosphere, but I guess I do agree with you guys. It seems like other companies besides Riot seems like the better choice in mines, like whether that be like CleanSpark, Iron, and Bitfarms. So yeah, from me, all the facts that you guys been saying, like, it just makes more sense to stray away from Riot from what it seems. So yeah, totally agree.